My name is Taylor Dilley. I'm a performance artist. For the last, in 2011, I joined Le Patin Libre, and it's a Montreal-based artist collective. We choreograph work together on ice skates. Since 2014, we've been touring mostly contemporary arts festivals and contemporary performance theaters, and making ice shows that fit that audience. And on the side, in the summertime, a lot of our work and a lot of our inspiration comes from performing on rollerblades. I grew up in Terrace as a young kid and moved away to Edmonton after the mill shut down, and lots of my family has stayed and come back, and so it's become home again during early COVID, and it's always felt like home being away, so it's really nice to be back. And one of my cousins described it best. She grew up here, and the first time that she left and came back from the mountains, she said she realized that the mountains had her back. And I feel like that's true for me. Mountains are where I feel like I'm at home. And I think that that feeling of being supported by the landscape and that feeling of being protected by a landscape is something that a lot of people feel without realizing it. And it's something that I'd like to bring some focus to in my next piece. So my new performance that I'm slowly working on is to look at the movements that rock climbers do during climbing. It's very raw, very real movement. It's motivated not by beauty, although there is a lot of beauty in the movement. It's motivated by a desire to not fall off. It's still in its research phase, which means the ideas are still being thought about and the choreography is yet to be done. But eventually, that choreography is going to be built for a performance that I would like to have happen on a boulder. A boulder is just a big rock. Often they're sitting in a field in front of a big cliff, and they've fallen off. Climbers walk up to them and find short, often very powerful roots along the edges of these big rocks, maybe 10 feet high. I imagine an audience seated in a semicircle around one side of the boulder with side lighting, maybe a bit of overhead lighting, and even some smoke depending on the wind conditions, to be able to piece out sections of the boulder into different lighting sections and create different feelings, which would be really upheld and directed with careful music. I have Luke Wallace, who is the very influential environmentalist and folk singer, who's working on developing some stuff with me for this performance. And Jasmine Boyven, who's a cellist and electronic composer, John Franklin had a really beautiful and inspirational piece of work in London called Boulder that is just some rocks stuck in a park. And they picked rocks very specifically to be ones that could be climbed on. And they placed them in a way that would be safe to climb on, and then they encouraged people to come and climb on them. And for more than a decade, Boulder was an extremely successful public space with almost no oversight, no regulations. It was just a space where people could come into a park and explore something that they might not have ever had a chance to explore otherwise. Especially in a city like London, where access to outdoor activities is extremely limited, and some people never leave their side of the river, let alone the city. I'd like to see similar spaces built all over the place, and I would like to see them celebrated with performance. I'd like to see them become spaces that could be gathering points for and backdrops for a variety of different kinds of art and activity and recreation. I think those sorts of sites be beneficial to a lot of communities, especially communities in northern BC, where access to indoor climbing spaces is often non-existent. And if it is existent, it's usually very limited. I believe the Skeena Climbing Society and similar climbing organizations in northern BC and other rural areas are all focused on accessibility, safety, education for a better rock climbing community.
Yeah. I like people. People with passion, you know?
My name's Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm Sarah Poole, Skeena Climbing Society, yeah. SCS, as it's also known. It's a not-for-profit that was started in 2017 by a group of individuals that just wanted to promote climbing and promote the access to climbing in the Terrace community, with the overall kind of vision to have access to our local climbing and to promote the maintenance and care of our climbing around us, and to build fellowship and community around climbing. It's very much one of those sports that is passed down through kind of word of mouth and by learning by doing. And we kind of promote that. Yeah, we try to connect more experience with climbers, with beginner climbers, especially through some of our events that we run, like the X2 Climbing Festival, which just had its 3rd year, where people that haven't done multi-pitch climbing are partnered with people who do have that experience to kind of help mentor that aspect and just to expose people to greater heights, if you will. Still, right now, we don't have an indoor climbing gym. We just have access to the high school here in Terrace, to Caledonia, which we're very grateful for. And that allows us to have a space to build fellowship within climbing and to connect people who are into climbing together. And that's a good foothold for getting out and climbing in our surrounding area, which has a plethora of excellent climbing. Some of the world-class climbing exists here in Terrace.
And at the Cal Nights, it happens more organically and it's sort of informal, where someone shows up and they don't have a partner and they're brand new, and we kind of teach them to climb or pair them up with someone who can show them, and we sort of vet who those people are and know that they're in good hands. And so we make sure that those connections are happening when we're there, and then we've seen them grow from that point.
There's a really deep motivation that a lot of climbers have, and sometimes they can't even explain what that motivation is, but to have a connection that they feel with the rock, and they're drawn to that space. And the rock is a really hard and sort of desperate space. There's just something about those sensations that that they find uplifts them. And I'd like to use that motivation and that those motions and display it in a way that could help people connect with their environments and with the things that motivate them from a new perspective. Yeah, I believe that there's a lot of power in performing outside, and that there's a different experience in watching performance and being a part of performance that takes place outside. I think that you connect with your space in a dramatically different way than you do when you're inside. There's more going on, but there's also a liberty that you have when you're outside from social constructs and rules around how you should behave when you're inside. And you're liberated from some of those regulations when you're outside. And so it leads to more honest feedback and a more honest relationship between a performer and a public. And I think it blurs that line between performer and public. And it's something that I would like my work to continue pushing for, is blurring that line between performer and public. There's a lot of work that I do with Le Patin Libre where we invite our public to come and get on the ice with us at the end of performances. And we teach people how to dance on the ice, even if they can't skate. You can just stand on your skates and wiggle them a little bit and start to feel the beat and the groove, and you can be dancing even if you're not a good skater. And that process of taking a public and bringing them into a space where they've watched someone perform and do something that they would like to do or would feel inspired by, and then putting them in the space and saying, here's an opportunity to do this with us. I think it's a very powerful process. And I believe it's a process that would benefit from working in the climbing space, because climbing is such an accessible sport in so many ways, and it's such a beautiful activity outside of the word sport. And I think it connects people in a really powerful way to their environment and to that sensation of the environment being a part of them and them a part of it. There's a really a reciprocity that you build if you have to be in relationship with a rock. When you're climbing, I think you quickly find that you are in that sort of relationship, that it's not just you fighting a rock, that there's a dialogue to be had through the movement. And that's what I'm working to explore. I believe that the best art leaves something lasting and meaningful behind beyond itself. And I think that's true for things outside of the world of art as well. I think that if you can have a lasting and meaningful legacy that has more purpose than what it was originally pushed for, that's something to strive for.